right, here we have the Termlab set up. And we still have this Smart 8 hooked up on the test bench. And we've got the 160 amp hour skib bank with the 20 amp hour cells. We've got the 8 ohm resistors wired in parallel for a 1 ohm load. Nothing's changed. So I've got a brand new, here's the package, brand new Mastec clamp. The same ones that come with the Termlab. And I have not opened this thing up or adjusted it or anything. There is a variable resistor inside that can be adjusted for amperage, but right now we're going to do some testing for consistency. Now with the Termlab, the output on this clamp needs to be set to the 10 millivolt setting here. The switch needs to be set to 10 millivolts. So we're going to hook it there where the clamp is for the basic garage watt meter, but as you can see, the only probes that are connected are for the Termlab. So there's nothing on this lead, there's nothing on this lead. Those are the only two probes connected to the speaker outputs for the Termlab, because we're only going to be testing for consistency. We're not testing for accuracy at this point. Consistency. So what that's going to look like is 40 hertz, volume 40. We're going to measure the volts coming out of the amplifier, the amps coming out of the amplifier, and then the watts coming out of the amplifier at volume 40, 45, and 50. So at volume 40 and 45, it's going to be clean. The Smart Tech will not kick in. At volume 50, the Smart Tech will kick in. So we may see some skewed results on volume 50, but we're going to see. You know, that's why we do testing. We're going to see how the Termlab reacts to extreme conditions on these amplifiers. So I'm going to write everything down on this notebook, and I'll show you the total results at the end of the testing. So let's turn the amplifier on, and I'm going to set the Termlab to peak hold. So we're at peak hold now. So now I've got to reset it and hit play. Now, volume 40. And what we're looking for is, actually let me stop this test. Now I'm going to go over to, see, volts, amps, volt amps, and then we'll have power here. I think that's power max. Volts, max, amps, max. Yeah, so let's go here. We'll go with the volts, power max, amps, power max, and then of course we'll have the wattage here underneath the false SPL reading. And those that don't know, on a Termlab you have to have the mic. You have to have the mic hooked up in order to clamp power. That's the only reason for the mic to be connected, is because it has to be connected to clamp power. So don't mind the SPL reading, because it doesn't mean anything. We don't have any speakers hooked up. We're just clamping power on these from this amplifier on these resistors. So here we go. 40 hertz, volume 40, test number 1. All right, so volts right here in the blue, 36.96. The amps is right below it, 35.26. And then the power factor is showing 0.973, and it should be closer to 1 because we are on resistors. So the power factor is not accurate on the Termlab. All right, so anyway, so watts is 1268. All right, so we're going to reset it and do it again. All right, so volts 3696, and that is identical to the previous run. Amps is 3528, which is almost identical, and then the watts is 1269. So far, Termlab is consistent on 2 runs. Another run, test 3, 3698 on the volts, 3529 on the amps, and 1270 on the watts. Test number 4, same volume, volume 40. 3695 on the volts, 3526, and then 1268 on the watts. Test number 5, 3696, 3527, and then 1269. All right, just to show you how close it is on the first round of tests, right there it is. That's pretty daggone consistent. That is very, very consistent. Look, the wattage is within 2 watts from 1268 to 1270. 2 watts differential on that volume and at that power. So very good results so far. And again, this is a brand new clamp. The clamp that we had before, when I did my testing before, as I suspected, was a faulty clamp. So now we're going to go to volume 45. So it should be somewhere around the 4,000 watt mark or so, between 4,000 and 4,200 watts. So volume 45. Test 1. So 65, 68 on the volts, 63, 15 on the amps, and then 40, 61 on the watts. Test number 2. And by the way, we are at about 14.5 volts on the battery bank. The fan that you hear kicking on and off in the background is the Tower Amps smart charger. All right, so test number 2. 65, 64 on the voltage, and then 63.19 amps. And then wattage is 40, 61. Test number 3. 65, 63. 63, 16. And 40, 59. Test number 4. 65, 63. 63, 15. And then 40, 58. And then test number 5. 65, 61. 63, 15. and 4056. All right, so that's the volume 45 testing. You can see the consistency. So on the wattage, you know, we go from 4056 to 4061, so that's 5 watts differential on about 4,000 watts or so. Pretty daggone consistent. Now I will say, on a 1 ohm load, the voltage and the amperage should be relatively the same. And yes, we do have a 1 ohm load, so I think that maybe I need to adjust the clamp. The variable resistor may need to be calibrated to match the voltage. That way we get a more accurate reading. So keep that in mind as well. I have not touched this clamp. It is brand new, straight out of the box. As a matter of fact, let's see. Yeah, see right here, the Z 1.017 right here, top corner right here in the pink. So Z with SPL Max. I left it on the SPL Max for, you know, for show purposes. All right, so the actual Z 1.009. So, I mean, it's reading 1 ohm, but it's not showing 1 ohm with the voltage and the amperage readings, because Ohm's law says at 1 ohm, the voltage and the amperage will be the same. All right, so now we're going to take this thing into Smart Tech, which on a regular amplifier would be into clipping, but this amplifier is not going to go into clipping because the Smart Tech will kick in. So we're going to go volume 50. All right, test number 1. All right, so we've got 100.2 volts, 96.97 amps, and then 9,537 watts. So test number 2. 100.8 volts, 97.50 amps, and then 96.45. Test number 3. 100.1 volts, 96.96 amps, and then 95.21 watts. Test number 4. 96.23 volts, 93.22 amps, and 87.98 watts. All right. And right now, the Tower Amps power supply is only putting in 16 amps of current into the battery bank. So that tells me that the battery bank is still, you know, relatively at the same voltage as the starting point. So it's not like that we're dropping voltage. That battery bank is capable of a lot more than what this amplifier can produce. So test number 5. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Test number 5. All right, 100.1 volts, 96.82 amps, and then 9510 watts. So there's the, the spread on the higher wattage is definitely more than the lower wattage. So, using a Termlab, it, up to, they have the 5,000 watt class. Now, is that a coincidence that they have a 5,000 watt class? And it's more consistent right there at the 4,000 watt mark versus 10,000 watts? I don't know. I'm talking about dB drag. But you can see, and I cannot do this math in my head, but 8798 is the lowest wattage, and then what is that, 9645? So what is that? 850 watts, 847 watts. Yep, 800. I guess I can do it in my head. 847 watts differential on this volume level or this wattage level. So yeah, it's pretty consistent on the lower wattages, but once you get up there, and again, it could be because of the smart tech. It does take longer for the Termlab to read versus the other devices I have been testing. So, I will take that in consideration, and I do plan on testing on different amplifiers that do not have the smart technology, so we can get a better understanding of different things, battery banks, the amplifier power, and the different devices. So, keep in mind, my testing very rarely ends. So we will have different testing coming up with different amplifiers, with the same devices, but with different batteries, different battery chemistries, so we can see just exactly what we're dealing with. If you order a battery from whatever website, and you build the battery, I'm going to show you what you can possibly expect from that battery, as well as what you could expect from the Termlab, the base head garage watt meter, the SPL labs setup, the clamp, and the voltmeter. We're just going to be testing a whole bunch of stuff, but right here for today on this consistency test for the Termlab with a brand new clamp that is not, I have not touched it. It is brand new, straight out the box. Here's the results. So I guess that's about it for this one. Let me know what you think.